Hello and welcome to the Museum of Latin American Arts Latinx Heritage Month. My name is Arturo Baez, Digital Education Initiative Specialist, and on behalf of the rest of the team at MOLA, I would like to thank you for joining us today as we learn about the Latino Comics Expo. Before we begin, I would like to thank the sponsors that made this event possible and accessible. Please enjoy this trailer for the Star Wars Visions streaming now on Disney+.
Long ago, a great warrior entrusted our ancestors with this. Its responsibility now lies with you. You've been guided by the Force since you were born.
First time I've confronted such darkness. Something ancient and sinister.
Let's make this our best show ever!
I accept this responsibility.
MOLA receives additional support from the Robert Guminer Foundation, the City of Long Beach, the Arts Council of Long Beach. The education programming at MOLA is supported by the Norris Foundation, the Miller Foundation, the Dwight Stewart Youth Fund, and other generous individuals. Your host today is Ricardo Padilla. Ricardo is one of the founders of the Latino Comic Expo, so we can thank him for all the cool artists that we've met throughout these years. And we're excited to be joined today by Lalo Alcaraz. Lalo is an award-winning visual media artist, New York Times best-selling author, television/film writer, and producer based in Los Angeles. This busy Chicano artist is the creator of the syndicated daily comic strip La Cucaracha. Lalo was nominated for an Emmy in 2020 for his work in consulting producer and cultural consultant on Nickelodeon's Emmy-winning nominated show, La Casa Grandes. Lalo is a longtime Chicano political and cultural activist. In 2015, Lalo was a cultural consultant on the award-winning Day of the Dead themed global hit Pixar movie Coco. In 2020, he was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize in editorial cartooning, and he has 10 jobs. Passing it on to Ricardo and Lalo. And one final note before we begin, please feel free to add your comments, questions in the chat or the dedicated Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom window. I will have time for that at the end.
Yes, bienvenido Lalo. Thank you for joining us. It's great to have you. We know you're busy dominating the Latino media landscape, so we really appreciate you helping us celebrate the Latino Comics Expo 10th anniversary. Can you believe it? 10 years?
10. Man, I almost have 10 fingers.
Awesome. Yeah, man. The cool thing is that you've been with us almost since the beginning. You probably have, stories to share because I think you've been with us in Long Beach for sure. I think you were with us in San Jose. You've seen our little expo grow, little by little every year. Maybe let's start off by just saying, your impressions of our little Latino Comics Expo and the fact that we've been here 10 years.
Didn't we do a pseudo expo in Texas one time?
Oh my God, that's true. Brownsville, Texas. We're everywhere. We'll go everywhere. Anywhere.
And you know what? I mean, not to diminish any other Latino-oriented comics expos that have come up since. I participated in the expo. The name escapes me right now because I'm getting old. But the one, the first East Coast Latino Expo, which was Puerto Rican and everyone like the Latino Comics Expo. But it was nice to see different ones come up, and I know our friends in Texas, Hector has done one down there. I mean, it's great to see the onda of brown comics go mainstream and go out, and all the things we do basically have come from the desire to not be excluded. We don't like to be excluded, and we like to, and this is not just in, pointing fingers at big comic conventions that are doing a better job of reaching out, because of people like Ricardo and Javier and different organizers, and putting pressure on. I mean, and again, I cartoon because I got tired of feeling excluded from the comics page. So it comes from a place of necessity, but it is a necessity what we do. It just, we want to do it too.
Exactly. That's what I always tell people. It's like there's nothing more American than comics, cartooning, and we definitely have our stories to share, and we want to be involved in it as well. And one thing I have to admit, in the 10 years we've been doing this, having an artist of your status, of your commitment, be part of our, like you said, our onda, has really helped us tremendously. So thank you, Lalo. It's like going into battle and then they say, who do you have? It's like, well, we got Lalo. I was like, oh, okay. You guys are semi-serious then.
Usually it's a bad thing, but
yeah, it is a bad thing. But we have so many things to cover. I mean, that's the one thing I also admire about you, is that you dip your fingers into all the waters and stuff like that. And one thing that's happened in the last 18 months that really got us all excited and we were all rooting for you is when we saw that you were nominated for the Pulitzer Prize. It was like, oh my God, Lalo. We were like, Lalo could win the Pulitzer Prize. And then, of course, it turned into So Chicano because it was the first year that nobody actually won it for cartooning.
I just did a panel yesterday with my friends, my colleagues from the Association of American Editorial Cartoonists, and led by Jen Sorensen. And it was, backstage or on email, the three cartoonists, myself, Ruben Bowling of Tom the Dancing Bug, which is one of my favorite political strips of all time. It's hilarious. And Marty Tubles, a Lakota native cartoonist from Pine Ridge. This was like it felt new, it was like, I'd been nominated the year before too. I was finalist a year before, and I'd forgotten during the panel, somebody reminded me, one of the panelists, that they threw out those results that year too and picked Barry Blitt, who's an awesome New Yorker magazine type or illustrator, but not like political cartoonists like us, I think, no offense to him, an awesome artist. But there was this like weird discussion about this East Coast, all kinds of biases, the East Coast bias. I said, I feel like, they could have, I think actually Ruben Bowling said, they could have picked, anybody of us and they would have made a splash, because he's an alt weekly cartoonist. We're all kind of alt weekly cartoonists. Right. Marty's Native American, Lakota would have been the first time. I don't know if he was a first time finalist, but he would have been the first winner, I think, in cartooning. And I think I would have been the first Chicano, winner. And because I don't count Michael Ramirez Chicano, but he doesn't either. But they could have made a statement, but no, they let their East Coast New York biases. I don't know what it is. I said, you know what, this whole thing felt familiar to me, because I felt, we all know as Chicano artists, as Latino artists, as artists of color, we know, and anything of color, we know we have to try 10 times harder just to be considered on the same level sometimes. That's why that whole thing felt familiar to me, like, oh, not again, not now. We almost won the Pulitzer.
Yeah, we were all pretty stunned, because we were like, oh, well, there's all this racial reckoning, and we got reckoned out of that one. I was like, that's
I reckon.
The conspiracy theories were flying. We're like, did Lalo offend somebody? Did Lalo do something at the at the reception at the award dinner or something. We're like, because we did our research, and I think the only Latinos who've ever won is the guy that wrote Mambo Kings, and maybe Juno Diaz, I think, maybe, and a couple poets here and there. But I was like, they can't give it to Lalo. Come on.
Kind of had the same feeling, but it's just weird, and that's how it goes. And like I said on the panel yesterday, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to give up because that's what happens. That's why, the Latino Comics Expo is still here, because you didn't give up.
Yeah.
In the face of lots of pushback, right?
That's true. No, I always tell the story that when we first started out and, we're going out looking for friends and sponsors, people would always say, Latino Comics Expo, why do you guys want to separate yourselves? Why don't you just, keep going to San Diego Comic-Con and stuff like that? But, they don't understand that sometimes you just need to have your own space. And then I always tell the story that, I really, really got the power of drawings, and especially of your work. Probably the first couple years, we did it in San Francisco at the Cartoon Art Museum, and you donated a couple of your pieces that we had on the wall as a gallery show before our expo. And we had a good crowd, and all of a sudden this old lady starts crying. I mean, like sobbing. And I go over to where she's standing, and she's standing in front of your drawing of like when the Statue of Liberty is running with the immigrants.
Arizona.
Yeah.
On the border.
And she's like crying, and people are like trying to like calm her down, and an old Jewish lady, survivor and stuff like that. She said she just, empathized so much with that drawing and meant so much to her. And I said, that's the power of drawing. That's the power of Lalo Alcaraz's work. So, once again,
Well, I'm glad I wasn't there.
I don't know if we have to boycott the Pulitzer or what do we have to do, but yeah, don't give up, Lalo. Don't give up.
I'm glad I wasn't there, because I would have been crying too.
Yeah.
No, señora, stop, señora.
Yeah. And just to touch on all the aspects of why we love you and why we appreciate your support, I think that's a part of it is your activism. You've always been at the forefront. You've always been there. Not afraid to offend people, not afraid to puncture different sacred cows and balloons and stuff like that. I mean, once again, just to name drop you. I mean, I've been at a show with you where people wanted to beat you up after seeing some of your cartoons and stuff like that. So you do have that power, but just maybe explain why you're so deep into activism and why are you so, intense on that angle.
I don't know. That shot, I think they got to look at you and said, "Oh, his bodyguard is like, that's too high a mountain to climb." But, I mean, I do what I do because of my, my parents and, our community, but mainly my parents. I saw how my parents suffered as immigrants and the hard lives they had, and the way the economic system beat up on them, the way that the cultural society ignored them, and then ignored me and ignored the next generation. And still ignores us. I mean, we're still battling for media representation. And that's why I do it, because I saw it close up. I lived it. So luckily, drawing runs in my veins. So I got, it was a way to express what I felt inside instead of going crazy. I'm still crazy, but I'm less crazy because I can express what's going on inside and the feelings I have and the political thoughts that come, and I just love doing it. And sometimes it feels like going in a circle, because you could look at a cartoon I drew 30 years ago about I grew up in San Diego on the border. You could take one of those cartoons and just change the date. A cartoon about border brutality, the border patrol or immigration or whatever it is. You could just change the date and it's still going on. And so we're not here solving the world's problems, but we're shining a big fat light on them, hopefully. And so hopefully we can work on those problems and not ignore them.
Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to ask you, because I think I first started seeing your really militant cartoons like around Prop 209 and that whole thing. And, and I go, I wonder if somebody like Lalo, do you start losing hope, or do you start, saying like, wow, the arc of justice takes a long time to bend, toward Chicanos for sure. But, how do you feel about, this long road of being militant? Is it frustrating?
Yeah, I mean, what else we gonna do, man? It's luckily it's fun to draw. It's fun to create. It's a real soulful activity as far as I'm concerned, and I mean, I'd rather be doing this than anything else. And like I warned the Pulitzer people at my panel that they weren't there, but I hope they heard, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going. I want to win. I don't do it for awards, but I do it for, representation,
Yeah.
And so, but also, as Marty Tubal said, we're in a business. We're business people too.
Yeah.
We don't want to starve drawing comics, and we don't want to go broke drawing comics. Cartoonists, we don't really advertise, but winning, winning an award sure helps advertise for us. And it doesn't hurt the syndicates, the comic book companies, whatever outlets, it doesn't hurt them. It helps them too. So, but yeah, it's overall, it can be a little frustrating, but just keep chugging along. Things are a little better. I don't want to be the cranky old cholo on the lawn.
Yeah.
But I find it fun. Yeah, get off my nopales. You should have enough common sense not to sit on my nopales.
That's true. That's true.
But I see it's great that younger people are discovering that, especially like, I see an article about young Latino actors in Hollywood saying we should get more roles. Well, yes, we should. We should. And we've been saying that for about 40 years. Some of us have been saying that for a while, and we gotta have a good sense of history too, and look back. Like, I mean, I started cartooning when I was a kid because I saw one of the many reasons I saw Gus Arriola's comic strip Gordo.
Oh yeah.
Gus Arriola, a Chicano cartoonist from Tucson, Arizona, who worked for Disney, worked for Warner Brothers, you name it. He worked in animation, but he also did the first syndicated daily comic strip by a brown person in the U.S.
Yeah.
And nationally syndicated, and it was about a taxi driver in Mexico. And I looked at that was the only thing that resembled me at all, and I saw it as a kid, and it made me realize, like, well, wait a minute, I can do this, and that little thing gave me hope, so I hope that our work gives some kid hope that, like, yeah, I can put on an expo, I can do self-referential cartoons all day long. That idiot did it, so.
Yeah. And the reason, especially why personally I just admire you is that, doing the expo for 10 years, you do meet a lot of Latino, Chicano artists, and, they're really, some of them are real adamant, like, oh, I don't consider myself a Chicano artist. I'm just an artist, or I don't want to, be political and stuff like that. And I've always admired just personally how you've always put yourself out there, whether it's been for the farm workers. I know you do a lot of work with CRLA. You do a lot of stuff with the National Latino Lawyers Association. You've always been an activist. You've never let that, impede you in any way. Like, oh, I might not get this corporate job. I might not get this other job because I'm too out there. So that's always been good that you've been able to blend the two and really keep an activist, forefront as well as your creative work is. And that's always been admirable to see. Thank you for that.
Well, part of it is some people in Hollywood have no idea what I do, which is good. And also my charming personality. It overcomes all the barriers.
That's true. That's true. One thing I wanted to ask you about, because we always love to like make new friends and make new, partnerships. And maybe you could talk a little bit, because I really also have admired you, the connections that you've made with the indigenous communities in this country. I know you were able to go to one of the first indigenous Comic Cons, and you've also been, I think, to Pine Ridge to support, the brothers and sisters up there. Maybe just talk a little bit as well as your efforts to, create connections between us and the indigenous populations of this country.
Yeah, we're all cousins,
Yeah.
so not only are we cousins on a nationalistic level with our colleagues in Mexico or our colleagues in Central America or Latin America, but we are literally cousins with all indigenous people, and they need our support, and whether it's using our own symbology from our own cultures in Mexico, learning about them and not just blindly drawing a cool Aztec thing just because.
Mhm.
But learning about our cultures, and you will find you compare to other cultures and you'll find the similarities, the differences, but go to the reservation, man. It's like a barrio, and the personalities, I could see there's a lot of similarities, depending on the barrio, I guess. And it's great, and you won't find nicer people than on a reservation, like Pine Ridge. I mean, everyone's happy we were there, and we went to go to the big powwow, and drove across the country to go to that.
Wow.
Actually, it's just
Wow.
like mind blowing. And did a with my friend Russell Contreras, who's now with Axios. He was with Associated Press, and we were with NHJ, the Hispanic journalists group, and did a little journalism mini convention on Pine Ridge. So for any aspiring Native journalists, I did a cartooning workshop for the kids, which their cartooning workshops for kids are wild everywhere. They're just like they're crazy everywhere, whether it's LA or the res, and it's just great. And you really open up your just open up your horizons. Don't get stuck in a certain way. Is my advice to artists, to activists. Go out. We're already open-minded people, man. Go open it up even more. However, don't open your mind up so much that all your brains fall out. Old Mexican dad saying, I think.
Yeah, no, but I have to admit that I've always admired those efforts that you've made in the indigenous community, because I think especially us in the Chicano community, basically we're light-skinned Yaquis, or we're light-skinned Taramaros, or we're light-skinned Toltecs. We all have it in our blood. It's just, it reminds me of that quote that Spike Lee always said, that when he was growing up, the worst thing somebody could call you was African. And I think with a lot of Latinos and Chicanos, it's the worst things that they can call you is Indio. Don't be an Indio.
Right.
Don't eat with your fingers. You're eating like an Indio. And I really wish we could make a better connection and reapproachment with our indigenous side. And that's
it's our foundation. So I mean, that's where, I try to make connections everywhere. I went to a museum in I think it was, I don't know if it was the Heard Museum. No, I'm lying. It was a library in Texas at a university. They showed me, I would tell the story. They showed me a map drawn by indigenous people in 1570, around there. And it was a map with, like, if you look at a codex, you'll see the little nopal area, and you'll see like different scenes or whatever. It was like that, but a map with a lake, and then here's a river, and here's the forest, and it was my brain melted when I saw it. It's a big, it's on, I don't know if it was on paper or skin, but it was table size, like enormous. And I looked down, covered in plastic, like your Tia's couch, right? But I looked down and saw the lines where the artist used a brush, used hair and drew, like Kodak style. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy's a cartoonist, And I'm looking at a cartoon from 500 years ago, trying to make that connection is just amazing. And so we could have been drawn yesterday. I mean, it's just amazing. What we do is so basic and primal, as cartoonists. I mean, it's like a language, it's a visual language. It's alongside, written language, I mean, it was probably preceded, because cave paintings, those are guys are cartooning stuff to the gods and praying for, more elk, and I mean, what we do is, I mean, cartooning will never go away because it is so, just like I said, it's a basic human activity that will never ever end. So I love that.
No, thank you for that. And another reason we admire your work and stuff like that is that not only are you fearless, but you're relentless. There's not one aspect of media or entertainment that you will not try to put your voice in and your talent in. So not only a great cartoonist, but over the past recent years, you've been active in TV, animation. I have to admit, we're rooting for Border Town. That was really kind of a really hilarious show, kind of on the edge.
Too precious to live.
Hilarious, maybe not for everybody, but it was a great while it lasted. And now your work with Casa Grandes, and like you mentioned, being in the writer's room, being in the room where decisions are made. Maybe just talk about that and your work in television and animation, and how's that been, a new challenge for you?
Yeah, no, it's I mean, I think the biggest challenge for me has been, to transition from being a cartoonist. Like, there's cartoonists in animation, and they are, of course, they can work solitary. That's what we do, but they are more plugged in the collaborative project that is a TV show or a movie that's animated, right? So they're better, they communicate better. They go to meetings. They have to go. You're in a pipeline of work. You have a supervisor. You have someone you pass your drawing off to. You show the drawings to one or more a group of people, and you get feedback, and then you have to fix. So that is like the opposite of what a political cartoonist, daily strip cartoonist does. I mean, we have one editor if we're lucky, and we work alone. I've worked alone for years, like the way that we work during the pandemic, at home, and maybe I communicate with the internet or phone, and that's that. But the challenge has been to learn to collaborate, play with others, and other than that, I mean, I'm just blown away by the power of animation. It's another, it's a cinematic art form that is beautiful, and that I think is harder than live action, because I think live action, you kind of you hope that the actor does a good thing, and you hope that you shoot it right. But in animation, you can work that product to death. You control. You're like a god. You control every single aspect of this world that you create, and you can finesse every detail if you want. I mean, you try not to. You try to get it right. The first time.
And yeah, and maybe just explain a little bit, because I think it was in Border Town, you did have production credit on that one, correct? Or was it writer credit on Border
Town? Writer. On Border Town, I was a writer, and I was starting to discover the job of cultural consultant, because I was also saying, wait a minute, but this is wrong. We need to change this. And so I would start, you know, asking like, is it okay if I talk to the artist? And they're like, yeah, go ahead. And the artists were like, dude, don't trip. I'm here for you. You know, like, tell me what to draw, how to draw it, and I will do my best, you know.
Yeah, because that was my question. Because I mean, I have to admit, some parts of Border Town were hilarious, and then some parts of Border Town were like, ugh, you know. And I was like, I wonder if you know, Lalo was in the room. Did they take your suggestions? Was it kind of bureaucratic, or how did you feel that they listened to you?
I mean, me, Gustavo Arellano, and 3 other Latinos of varying degrees of, you know, Latino-ness, let's just say. You know, not to that. I'll tell you a story about Mexicans with glasses in a second. But what we you know, we were there as writers, and kind of, you know, we were there for our cultural knowledge too, which is the ideal situation. You know, there shouldn't have to be a cultural consultant on every project in Hollywood. There should be people that are super smart writers and producers that already know what's, like, you know, the right thing. However, you should also have a cultural consultant with another set of eyes to just make sure everything's cool. But ideally, there shouldn't have to be a consultant, you know, like that. Those writers should know everything, you know, like perfectly. But, you know, the world's not perfect. So it was fairly democratic. And you know, we had a big writing room, and anybody could pitch a joke. And I really thrived on that show. I go back and watch episodes of it, and I'm like, oh, that really dirty, awful joke, that was mine. All right. like I started counting the jokes. I got quite a few really awful, wicked jokes in there.
That's what I was afraid of. I was like, oh, we're offended, and it's a Lalo joke.
No, I was like, this is my world right here. But also we did clash with the writers, some of the writers, because some of the writers, I mean, we were newbies, and some of the writers were like your stereotypical Hollywood writers, you know, like they're from Harvard, they worked on The Simpsons, they worked on Family Guy, most everybody was from Family Guy, South Park. I mean, these people were like sharp and hilarious and brutal people, you know. It was a really great environment to learn a lot about what it's like to work on a network TV show. I have a feeling that, you know, writers' rooms and other shows were not as brutal as ours, but we had a good time, you know, and I learned a lot. And so I appreciate that time we had. But yeah, that show, it was, it had its really Family Guy type moments that were very vicious and brutal. And then there was like crazy, and then there was some in between, like when, you know, the Virgen of Guadalupe beats up one of the characters and takes his wallet, you know. It's like, I was like, oh no, we can't show that. And they're like, no, it's pretty funny. And I'm like, all right. And it turned out to be one of the funniest bits in the show, but you know, the Pope probably didn't like it.
Yeah. And what's the difference working with Nickelodeon on Casa Grandes? Would you say it's like a different environment, same kind of thing, or do they
Oh my gosh.
or they respect you more that you got more experience, or?
Well, I don't know about that part, but the part that's, I mean, they really, you know, I like stepped up and kind of made it into the you know, as a producer, like I begged to write episodes, but I was not a staff writer, but I got to be in kind of the production management kind of level a little bit, you know, of the show. So they really listen to what I say, you know, like almost 100% of the time. I think about, except when I'm arguing with the, you know, the kind of show creator about like, dude, that's gross. Like, don't put that in. Like I never had a problem that way. And then Yeah, that show has a constraint of writing for kids, you know, and Nickelodeon has certain rules that you write by. And so it's I mean, a challenge is good, you know, it makes you a better writer to come up with still funny stuff. You don't have to, you know, have dead baby jokes like I did in
Yeah.
Bordertown. You can you challenge yourself to come up with truly funny stuff, you know, for the parents that watch the show too, you know.
Yeah, I've been trying to pitch a show where Lalo Alcaraz hosts like a daily show like Jon Stewart and talk about, you know, Chicano issues, and then you bring back the guys from Culture Clash to be your co-hosts, and Sheila E is the band director and stuff like that. And, you know, you can steal that idea, okay?
Not bad. Let's do it.
But you know, like I said, we admire you because you're a king of all medias and stuff like that. So of course we have to ask you about your experience, because working with Pixar, with Coco, you know, a lot of people were shocked that you started working for the mouse after being such a fervent critic, and you know, but you know, people love Coco, worldwide smash. How was that experience? Did you feel that they took some of your suggestions seriously? Did you feel that, you know, you were there, you know, as a cultural consultant who was respected? And maybe just talk about your experience with Pixar.
Yeah, sure. No, it was a great experience. I knew that, you know, they were going to make the movie with me or without me, and I was not the only consultant on the movie. We were a team of 3, and you know, Octavio Solis was a Chicano playwright from the Bay Area, and also Marcela Davison Aviles from Tucson. There's a Tucson thread going on in this show today, and she's the one that got me in. Her and the executive producer Darla Anderson were the ones. She convinced Darla to pull me in. After that year, you know, a year after the trademark controversy where Disney tried to trademark Dia de los Muertos, but not a good idea. We let them know, and the community rose up and said, no, that's a bad idea. And then I did a cartoon, Muerto Mouse, criticizing that, and
Classic.
one of the rare times that you know, we won, right? Like, and so they, you know, honestly, and I don't know if I've signed an NDA with Darla, but she told me they didn't really know that I was on the project until after it came out. And by they I mean the head of Disney, you know, and but the head of Disney kind of got me hired on this because from the head of Disney's office, and it's not Eisner at the time, but or maybe it's Eisner. I forget who it was, but Bob
Iger.
Yeah, maybe Iger, right? Yeah, like from that office, allegedly, this is what I heard, a message came to Darla that said, with a copy of, this is way before, but with the copy of Muerto Mouse, and maybe with a printout of the petition that people wrote, and it said, what the F is this? and said, take care of this, right? So time passes, and you know, I don't know if I was part of the taking care of, but you know, I mean, I got a lot of heat for signing on from, you know what, I got a lot of haters. I got a lot of morons that, you know, always want to say something. And but I knew that you know, like I said, they're gonna do the movie with me or without me. Why not with me? And my first question was, you know, are you gonna listen to what I say? Because I'm not a rubber stamp for this at all. I'm not gonna sign on if you're just gonna put my name on it and then do a crap movie. Like, why would I do that? You know, I would never do that. You got to reassure me. And then it played out like, you know, we brought in so many other people from the community. We brought the Esparzas, you know, the altar making family, and from East LA, and we brought it. And then we gave hella notes, as they say up north, hella notes. And we were not a rubber stamp. They listened to what we said, and you know, not everything got in, but I think some, you know, crucial things got in. And also, you know, I also asked them, are you going to have brown facing on this? You know, are you going to, what's I always forget, what's her name? Scarlett Johansson. Is Scarlett Johansson going to play the abuela? Because I'm sorry, I cannot put my name on that. And they said, no, absolutely not. We're going to have all Latino casting. So I said, all right, cool. Because that works for me. You know, that's one of my pet peeve issues of all time. So it made sense, and I said, screw it, I'm gonna do it.
What was the one thing that you can point to that you're proud of, that maybe you had an impact in or an influence in on that movie, that next time when I put in my bootleg DVD, what can I be what can I be proud to see that Lalo
well, as a gift I got a line in the movie and an Easter egg, you know, and you can go find that yourself, but it's a La Cucaracha Easter egg. And but also you know, there was a bunch of stuff. I mean, I think you know, we leaned on them to, you know, we tried to get more music, we tried to get more than one, you know, traditional Mexican song in there, but you know, the songs that were written by Adrian Molina and Jermaine Franco, you know, both Mexican Americans. Jermaine Franco scores movies now. I've known her for a million years. She was on a Chicano Secret Service pilot that we did.
Oh, snap. Wow.
Audience members don't know out there, I used to have a comedy group, Chicano Secret Service, that I co-started at Berkeley. And we tried to come down, we came down to LA, tried to do
Berkeley.
Yeah, we tried to do a TV show, and then Jermaine was our Sheila E, you know, she was our percussionist, you know. And then here
people
we are.
Forget you have an architectural degree from Berkeley.
Yeah,
How are you going to use that?
You want it? So it was overall, I mean, it was a great experience, and I forgot what I was saying earlier, but you know, despite, you know, the critics who said, you know what, that's not the correct version of Mictlan. Where's the river of obsidian blades carrying off the flat? I'm like, where's that Disney movie, dude? You know, like, calm down. But you know, it became the #1 movie of all time in Mexico. And if Mexico's not mad, if they're happy, why are you mad? Right? That's what I would say. Well, although the previous #1 movie in Mexico of all time was Avengers. So take it with a grain of salt.
We'll take it. We'll take it. We'll take it for now. So yeah, I mean, and then people may not know you have a radio show as well, Pocho Hour Power. You've conquered TV, movies. But then you shocked me the other day, because when I saw that you were doing the video game, and that Forza thing looks amazing. Oh, maybe tell us about that, because that was like, what an excellent idea. And maybe explain how you got involved in that, because people may not know that more money is made from video games than film. So
I mean, it's the future. It's when I finally got to talk about it. I mean, was not able to talk about it until we started doing press for it. And like when I posted about it, I was shocked to see all the Chicanos that are like 30, 40-year-olds are like, oh yeah, I have the Forza 4. I'll get this. And then and so. I was like, wow, I missed out on video games, right? I missed out on I'm not the video game generation, but now I'm into it, you know. And it's definitely, it's not the future, it's today. I mean, video games are massive, and you know, they're even, I'm happy to see games like people doing this game, Mictlan. Have you seen that, you know, announced on Facebook, or they keep talking about it? So I'm on their Instagram, like a game about the Mexican underworld, you know, and different, you know, these are like worlds that you can explore in video games that need to be done. And you could have cultural things, you know, with them, like this game, Forza Horizon 5, which the previous game was driving. I mean, Forza is Horizon is a giant franchise. It's a whatever AAA rated, not the insurance company, but it's a top game. It's Xbox, Microsoft, and they had, the previous one was set in England, you know, on the wrong side of the road. I don't know why these people drive on that side of the road. And it was set in England. You drive around and you go and you can play casually, or you can you have little adventures in there, whatever. It's all about driving and having cool cars, not about violence or whatever. Then the next one was going to be set in Mexico. It's an even bigger world. It's not exactly Mexico. It is like the biomes, they call it, you know, the desert, like Baja, you know,
like an imagined idealized place. But I have to admit that the teaser looks amazing. It's just the level of artwork in it, and like you said, it's good that it's not a point and shoot. It's just,
yeah,
but it's beautifully done. As somebody who's kind of faded away from video because of the violence, this is like beautiful. And I was like, whoa, how did Lalo jump in with these guys? They reached out to you? It's a beautiful work.
Yeah, they're based in England. They're based in the UK, and by I think Birmingham. But anyway, so they needed somebody who could you know, kind of be a cultural consultant on this game, make sure that there's nothing offensive or weird. It's a really big world, like I said. And also that could, they asked me to write. I mean, they asked me to check dialogue and change it. And then I was like writing, and then they just said, this really crazy part of the game, which I'm not going to reveal, you have to buy the game. They said, would you write this? And I said, hell yeah, you know, because I've learned, I mean, you know, traditions are great, but even our ancestors mess with traditions. You know, they created traditions, but they got it from somewhere else. And, you know, and now it's 2021 and we have to, like my drawing in the back, you know,
Yeah.
you know, we can't be rigid. We have to be respectful, and we have to, you know, like I tell, we have, I think, a mutual friend who is really into Aztec stuff and the comic book. And we've had this conversation where I told him, he's a white guy, and he's a very talented cartoonist. And he said, I wanted to do this book about Aztecs, but nobody was doing it, so I just did it. I'm like, it's great. It's a freaking beautiful book, a beautiful project. I go, the thing is, just don't walk around like you invented Aztecs, because that's where it gets annoying. You start Columbusing stuff and be like, you got to respect the culture, respect the where it's from, and that's what they did for with Playground Games as the game creator. That's what they did with this game. They didn't want they don't want Mexicanos or Chicanos driving around this made up Mexico and go like, oh my God, this is like fake, and this is like, who wrote this, or why is it this is like Taco Bell version of Mexico. It's not. I mean, and they also spoke to the Ministry of Culture in Mexico and got permission to use Teotihuacan and got permission to use Mayan visuals in the game. So they're all authentic, and they might have gone to Guanajuato and asked, can we use Guanajuato, because Guanajuato's in the game. You can drive.
Beautiful colonial town, yeah. I know people are saying, "Oh, great, Lalo's dominating another media Uh, but it's beautiful work. And because one of the things I have to admit that we do in the expo too is like, artists will bring their families to the expo, and it's always like, first generation parents, and it's like, mis hijos con estos monos, estos. And we tell them it's like the future is content, whether it's animation, video games, graphic, web, content is going to be the product of the next century. So,
oh yeah,
déjalos con sus monitos. You never know,
Look
what
at-
might pop up.
look at, I mean, after all this controversy of Facebook and Instagram, I love Instagram because that's the future right there. It's a perfect medium, perfect app for, what we do. It's like, and for young cartoonists, like when young cartoonists come up to me, young artists, and they're like, "Can I show you my portfolio?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." They whip their phone out and they go to their Instagram, and then they show, and it's like, I love it, and I discovered so many artists on Instagram that I've gotten to recommend for jobs. Like I did a mural for FX. I curated a group of artists for FX and to do a mural about the show Mayans.
Oh, my mom's favorite show. Yeah.
I think I know what her favorite character is, JD Pardo. But anyway.
Coco.
Coco.
And yeah,
Mrs. Padilla.
Coco's awesome. But it's an ideal app, and I think the internet's good for that kind of stuff where you can disseminate your art, and even bigger than I don't know about you, but I'm the generation that I had to like hand out copies of my cartoons to people. I would do it at Office Depot. I had to Xerox my cartoon for
Old school.
newspaper, and then I would make a few extra copies. And if I saw Chicanos at Office Depot, I would go like, "Hey, check out my cartoon." Because hey, there's no internet, so look.
No, that's why, in all seriousness, we do want to, de todo corazón, thank you, Lalo. I mean, like I said, you've been there since day one supporting us. I can't tell you how many people and how much support we've gotten once we say, Lalo's with us, or people that have come up to me after Expo saying, "Oh my God, my table was 2 tables away from Lalo Alcaraz." Thank you so much for being a part of our.
I thought they were complaining. They're like, "God, that guy's so loud." Sure.
No, de todo corazón, thank you for being part of our Expo. I know you said you have maybe one last little secret thing that you wanted to reveal that's in the works. Can we get like a?
Oh yeah. Also, the mistake, I said that Javier was going to interview me, but it was Ricardo. I'm so sorry. But I'm writing co-writing a feature for a big studio, and that's all I can say. So you have to be in person. You have to put me in a headlock or something to, and you can do it too.
If you need somebody to head up your security detail, I'm non-union, so go for it. I do think we have a couple questions from the audience. If you don't mind, maybe we can hit some of those real fast.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we have a couple of minutes. We have a program coming up soon. So one of the first questions we have here in the chat is, do you like the cartoony side of Jose Luis Cuevas drawings or Mexican political cartoonist Ruiz? I believe is what they're trying to say there.
I'm right now not sure who either of those are, but I made an effort to reach out to Mexican political cartoonists because they are, I think, in our continent, in our hemisphere, they are the greatest cartoonists. No offense to my American colleagues, but Mexican cartoonists are badass, and they get to cuss, some of them, in like La Jornada. So I just love he's Itrino. I love the master Rius, but I finally got published in El Chamuco, which is like their political cartoonist Mad Magazine, and I'm going to be
And
publishing.
last year too, we were lucky that Mola sponsored Gonzalo Rocha and Lalo to have a discussion in Spanish too.
Oh yeah, that was awesome. I mean,
Gonzalo Rocha, he's Mr. La Jornada, so that was.
I was talking about that yesterday in the Pulitzer panel about how Mexican cartoonists. I mean, one of the questions I asked Gonzalo was, I mean, you are really, under threat. Like people kill journalists in Mexico. What about cartoonists? He's like, I'm safe in Mexico City, but if I was out in, some far-flung state, like not so much, So, it's a harder life for the cartoonists down there, but man, they are just amazing. It takes away nothing from their work. So yeah, I'm a huge fan.
Thank you, Lalo. Do we have another question here? What's the story of Chicano's Secret Service? Did Lalo write for Culture Clash? What skits?
Who the hell asked that? All right.
I'm
So myself and Elias Serna started Chicano Secret Service at Berkeley because we looked across the bay in San Francisco and saw Culture Clash and said, we could do that and be funnier, right? And be Chicano, right? And so eventually we became friends with Culture Clash, but we toured the circuit. It was a great time. I stopped doing the group. There's another version of it out there right now with Elias and Tomas Carrasco, which is fine. Go for it. But the Culture Clash show was my first job in television. The Culture Clash TV show, which had about 30 episodes, came myself, Josefina Lopez, the playwright, Teatro 0101. We worked on the show.
Was it on Fox? Fox?
Yeah, it was on Fox television stations, which was like pre-Fox network, so it wasn't exactly a network show, but it kind of was for the time. And as the first, Latino sketch comedy show on television, I believe, so in the U.S. So it was. We keep saying we're gonna do a movie about that because that was weird, but I wrote mostly all the Spanish words of the day was my bit, and so I got to meet all the celebrities that did the Spanish words of the day, and I got to meet Carol Burnett. Carol Burnett came to the theater one time. And I was like, oh my God, that's Carol Burnett. Oh my, she's like Charlie Chaplin, man. So I was like dying, but so that was, and then I got to meet Eddie almost 40 times. So that was good.
Thank you, Lalo. This last one is more of a comment. As a cartoonist, I just want to thank you, Lalo. I grew up in Calexico, a border town in California. And I remember as a kid discovering La Cucaracha. It meant a lot discovering that a Chicano could become a successful cartoonist. So thank you, Ignacio, for submitting that comment. And thank you to everyone that joined us today. Up next, we have an interview with Javier Hernandez,